Yeah, absolutely. Let's move along in just in the interest of time. And I think next up we're moving to Eddie Munson's trailer, fan favorite, at least according to TikTok. So Chris, Jess, I feel like I want to start with a detail here because there is so much detail. And if I understand it right, as the set decorator, that's your role, right? You're the one who gets to define all of this.
Yes, I will just say though, when it comes to like metal and music, like Chris and I definitely like there's a lot of talking about like what bands, what music a character likes. I mean, even with Amy as well, she's responsible for, giving them a wardrobe that supports all of those tastes. But yes, this was super fun. And, there's just so much space in here to cram everything that's Eddie's life. 'Cause he saves everything. He's a musician. He's kind of been that same guy this whole time. We made a lot of this handmade, like, the guitar I painted myself, the corroded coffin. I think Chris and I did one version of it ourselves together. And just like black light posters and all that stuff. It just, even I don't know if you can see it in this photo. There is a pepper shaker actually right there, but like just, leftover plates because he doesn't clean up and he lives with his kind of like, uncle who's not super housekeeper oriented. So just having the mess is always going to be a fun time. And then all the layers on the walls as well.
I love the pepper shaker detail. Chris, as a guy who does the graphic design around here and teaches it, the corroded coffin piece, do you comp that? How do you come to that being the look for corroded coffin?
I mean, honestly, this is maybe not my favorite iteration of our corroded coffin logo, but like, I've always been, I've always been sort of a bit of a fan of metal and kind of punk and that. So I just started doodling on the wall of our offices, and I just kind of worked out this little slashy corroded coffin logo, so it was, just inspiration from life, I guess,
In the next image, we see all of the hats on the wall. Okay, so we have the set decorator here. We have the production designer. We have the costume designer. Who's in charge of the hats on the wall?
Okay. Well, so this is before we knew for sure that we had to do a second version of this trailer. But I'd gone to some estate sales and different things. And I was just like paying attention to what some of these country folk kind of would create collections of and save. And so I pushed really hard. Like I wanted hats and mugs, like seemed to be the right fit. And it also kind of softens, Eddie's uncle a little bit. I don't know. He's one of my favorite characters. I know he's a little understated after the final cut, but I saw him as this very important person, and he's like, you can relate to him. And he was so upset by Eddie's death later. So I wanted him to have a little bit of reality and a little bit of like, you can see his taste and what he saved in his life. That said, then I found out that we had to do a second version of this trailer for the Upside Down. And so I had to find duplicates of all of this one-off original stuff. So that was a little bit problematic, but we got it done. And we were able to cover it with like upside down vines and things. So it was very forgiving. But
very brief fun fact for Jess and I, this mugs collection specifically, and so a lot of what's happening in this trailer is a little throwback to the first indie project that Jess and I did a million years ago. One of our sets that we really enjoyed there. It was a little Easter egg for just the two of us.
Yeah, they had tons of mugs, and it was always one of our favorites that someone would keep all their mugs that they've ever kind of bought on vacation or wherever. And so, yeah.
It was one of the questions someone submitted that you all just asked or answered rather, and I'm just fascinated that it's actually just an Easter egg for the two of you. That's pretty amazing. Let's jump to the next slide, because what I'd like to talk about, Amy, in this is the Hellfire Club t-shirt, and then of course the Levi connection. Maybe can we start with the Hellfire shirts? And is this your design? Where does this come from? This seems very iconic from this season. I feel like I should be congratulating you because I feel like I'm going to be seeing it at Halloween.
I hope we see it at Halloween. I mean, I knew Eddie was going to be such an important character, and Chris and I were both kind of auditioning graphics to the Duffer Brothers for the logo, and everybody knew how important that would be because it was meant to look like the kids had drawn it themselves and was a little bit more like homemade and then printed. So in the long run, it was between the two, and a friend of mine Trevor Gerard had done the doodle, and then that was the one that they chose. So that's the one that made it on the shirt. And then with Levi's, that connection was not with this season. We had worked with them last season, but what an iconic, jacket thing. It was like, a jacket that was cut into a vest. So I knew I wanted to put that over a leather, and it's a brand new leather. So we had to distress that. And we added, like the chains around the zipper, like maybe the zipper was broken. And I spent far too much time like picking the pins and choosing the patches and the placement. I'm sure my team was like, okay, move on. But I just knew how important every band was and that they would all connect and make sense. And with Dio, that was really cool to get to put Dio on the back. A lot of my research of like young boys in the 80s and metal dudes, it was a lot of Dio t-shirts, especially in 86. And so it felt like that was the right one because, he was like a wizard metal dude. And that's exactly what Eddie would have listened to. So the rings are like legit vintage rings from a warehouse in Philadelphia that happened to have quite a few multiples of it. So thank you, Philly Bulk Vintage. And the bracelet was a bracelet we found online. So yeah, it was cool.
And if I could just give a shout out really quick to Metallica,
please.
because ever since season 2, I think it's the first time we used a Metallica piece in Stranger Things, and I was so nervous it was going to be like a $2,000 fee just to clear it to see it on camera. That's what a lot of those things are standard. And they wrote back personally and they said that they were huge fans of the show and that they would be honored. Just don't make them look like assholes in the show. And so that's kind of carried through because there was a lot of Metallica related to Eddie as well this season. And they've continued to be awesome. There's something somewhere online you can watch with Eddie where he meets up with them like before Lollapalooza or something. You can see the behind the scenes kind of meet and greet. But yeah, it's really nice when bands get excited and are willing to help you out. And it just makes everything a lot easier.
Amy, briefly on this next image we're going to look at, talk us through how each of the characters then kind of, I'm going to say like personalize the Hellfire Club t-shirt. How do you go through that process?
Yeah, well, knowing that it was like a club shirt and they all had to wear it on the same day, that's not going to stop them from like also wearing the rest of their closet, the clothes that they choose. So I think with Gaten's shirt for Dustin, that was a fun one that we built in-house. And that was vintage fabric that I found from like a fabric store that was closing in San Diego. And Gareth on the screen left, he's in like a red plaid that would have been something that he would have worn regardless of a Hellfire shirt or not. Erica, of course, is not in one, but it was nice to give everybody just a little touch to make it feel like they were wearing it within their regular day, but they just all had to wear it on the same day.
And then we've got one more photo from, I believe, the same day they're on campus. And I just kind of put this up and allow you all to kind of like, any thoughts on the sequence, on the time in Hawkins? Obviously, if you're reading the chat like I am, people are loving all the details that you're providing. So anything we need to know about this sequence, any of this time at the high school that you'd like to share? Jess?
It's not in this photo, but I will just say, at least to me, whatever goes on in a school in a period show is very important to me. So like bulletin boards become a real thing that I get very obsessive over. Is like season, I will just say that one of my favorite things we've done on the show, season 2, was scripted to be 1984. And it was like late October, early November. And there was an election about to happen with Reagan and Mondale. So those kinds of current events, to have those in the background, even just like whipping by something in a hall, is super fun if someone's like pausing and really looking deep, to have a full submersive, so this year was like Halley's Comet was happening that month and various other things. So it's just, I like school stuff and bulletin boards especially.
Okay, good thing to pay attention to. Chris, anything you think we need to know from this era?
I mean, I just think about the little quick montage we did as they're trying to find an alternate player. And like, I think it speaks to like for all of us, like that little quick montage where they stop by the science class and then the math class and then the chess class and then the art class. I mean, that passes by in less than a minute on camera, but each of us has to spend an inordinate amount of time designing each of those sets and like, and costuming all those. So that to me was like, it was a lot of fun because we get to do these kind of quick, like one-offs, and we get to, give you a quick portrait of the math club and a quick portrait, it's a lot of fun, the wrestling club. So I feel like that's something that people might not think about that, like, for each of those 10-second bits, we had to, like, figure out what the math club would have looked like and what the art room should have looked like. And that was actually a lot of fun. But yeah, sort of maybe overlooked.
Let's hop to the Scantron shirt. And Amy, I wonder if you can walk